Well, good morning, people. It's now Monday. Been a little bit on the cold side out there, so the noise you're hearing in the background is actually my heater, and hence the hood little cap. What I'm, what I've done, I've got this '07 Audi, the S8, back in the shop. I brought it in over the weekend, and I thought I'd kind of try a few things. It was in the evening hour, kind of late. Wouldn't think too far in advance as far as turn the camera on. So um, by the time I did, it was already past what I've already kind of gone through, what I've discovered. Um, so having the weekend to kind of think about it, decided to maybe backtrack a little bit more and go back over the things that I was doing and the things that I have found in the attempt of just process of elimination. Um, so that's where we're at. It's surprisingly, it's a little after 11:30. It's just taking me a while to get moving here on a Monday. So, anyways, I'm gonna flip the camera around here and show you where we're at with things. So, as you remember, we had issues with that throttle bodies. As far as initiating, cannot get them to where they would sync up, and in the realms of a kind of a swaptronics, I guess you might say, and the only reason why I did it was to kind of prove a point, but I swapped the left and the right throttle bodies around, and what I found is that whenever I took the right side throttle body and I put it over on the left side, it would actually generate a code for the throttle bodies being an issue. We've since then got a different throttle body, an OEM factory replacement. I did clean it up so there's no more carbon or grease and such in there. And what I did is I took what this used to be over here on the bank 2 and put it over on the bank 1, just to prove the fact that there is nothing wrong with this throttle body at all. Because as it is right now, the only codes that would pop up is for the bank 1 side, and it's just the fact that bank 1 will not initiate the sequence. If you look at into the mode to do the process, to try to do the adjustment, this side would actually say ADP is okay. However, this side would always come up saying it's an error. And again, like I said, this is a proven good throttle body that we took from the bank 2 and put it on the bank 1. So since then, we have now discovered they still get the same error as far as the initiation of or initialization of the throttle bodies. And get this scan tool up and going here. Nice and quiet when the heater shuts off. Oh, I may need to turn the key on here. Let's do that. Okay, now that we got the key on. Oh, I picked up the audio already. That's nice. Must have retained it from over the weekend. That's fine. We'll just do a high-speed scan, which I found it's not really that great of a high speed. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start screen recording this stuff so that way I can share it a little bit better once I put the video together. That way everybody can kind of see what's going on, what's been happening with it. So you can see right now, ECM1 has 3 codes in it. Aim this guy down here a little bit so you can see it. There we go. And something else So I hooked up the snap-on scope to the throttle position sensors on bank 1 and bank 2, and then you can see the color of the wires. And I meant to put, well, I should say, the first time when we were doing the diagnosis of the other throttle body, I did have the yellow and the green over on bank 1 and the blue and the red over on bank 2. I figured now that it's been swapped, I want to, maybe it's not a good thing, but I did it anyways. I wanted to change up the coloring just to show that it's a different waveform now compared to what it was back then, because you'll see it differently on the scope. But anyways, the yellow and the red you can see, which is yellow is going to be bank 2 and the red is bank 1. Both voltages are within the same, pretty much the same measurement. The green and the blue, which, you know, the green is bank 2 and the blue is bank 1, you can see that they are also pretty much right on the money with each other here. Let me see if I can line these up a little bit closer together. There we go. But the voltage that is being read right now, yellow is 4.29, green is 0.74, the red is 425, and the blue is 0.80. It's kind of bouncing around 0.79. So you can see they're relatively, really close on their voltages. Now, when I go into ECM1, what we have right now is we got 3 codes. The P1579, which is a throttle valve control. Unit adaption is not initiated, which has been the code we've been chasing all along. A new code, or I should say a code that does pop up, but it only seems to happen when you first fire the vehicle up. It will not do it under just key on, engine off. It's a P0221, and it's referring to the throttle pedal position sensor switch B range performance. Now, this is a new code for me. I'm not sure when exactly how this come up, but a P1647 at the moment says checking coding versions of the control modules in the drivetrain. Now, I'm not sure if that's been generated because I was moving things around over the weekend, doing the trial and error. Either way, what I wanted to show you is when we go into basic settings, let's go into the, is it code 060, the throttle body alignment. You'll see that this is the bank 1, so this is the one that's over there on your left over here. The throttle valve sensor 1, which is the G187, is at 15.23%. And throttle valve sensor 2, the G188, is at 84.77. Now you can see now at the bottom, it says the throttle body alignment status is an error. And you can't do anything in the lines as far as trying to do any adjustments. If I do hit the adjust, you won't hear anything, but you will see the counts drop to 0, as it just did. But nothing happened. So now you got that. Let me get back out of here. And what we're going to do is now we're going to go to ECM2, which you can see there's no codes. And we're going to go to do the same thing, which is 60, the body alignment. You can see throttle body 2. Now you can see that throttle valve sensor, the G297, is at 14.06%. Throttle valve sensor, which would be the 2, G298 is at 85.55. And it has step counts of 4. But the big thing is here at the bottom, it says ADP is okay. Now, if I try to do the adjustment, it will also do the throttle count, the step count will go to 0. And then more than not, the ADP okay will then turn to an error. And I believe it's due to the fact that there's no response from bank 1. And then at times, Sometimes you can get it to actually actuate and you can hear something happen with the throttle body, but more lately I've been hearing absolutely nothing. So let's just try it. Oh, this time it did. You can hear it. Maybe I was a little late with the microphone, but it did actuate a little bit, but you can see it turned to an error. Oddly enough, the throttle adaptation steps went to 8. Huh. A lot of times I've seen it go to 0. Let's try one more time and see if I can get the mic closer and all. There you go. I hope that the mic picked up the clicking sounds, but there you can see anyways, it goes to an error. So let's just back out of this. And the only time it will actually come back, ADP is okay, is when you key off and you let it sit for a few minutes, then you key on, it will do the wake up check, and then ADP is okay. So something I wanted to show, I went into identification services, and I wanted to expand the identification. And the reason why I kind of wanted to do this is because this car has 2 ECMs in it. Let me bring you over here to show you. So you can see there's the 1127, okay? And then this one is marked as 1128. The problem I was dealing with in my mind is that whoever had wrote down there as 1 and left. So I'm not for sure what their meaning was behind it. So I wanted to define and figure it out for myself of what is what. So I went ahead and expanded the, get you set here, expand the, find out what exactly is inside or which side is what. So as you remember, we're in ECM 2, and the running manufacturer number is the 1127. Now, if you recall, that was the one that's over on the left that said 1 left. All this time in my mind, I was thinking that side would have been bank 1, controlling this bank 1 side of the engine, and the other one is obviously would be ECM 2. To determine whether or not, and let me do this. So now that we know that, let's go back, and I'm going to go back into ECM 1. And we're going to go into the identification again, expanded identification. And now in ECM 1, you can see that it says that the running manufacturer number is 1128. So that shows the fact that this one here, the 1128, is technically the ECM 1. Now I just wrote this down on here, just so I can kind of keep myself straight on what exactly is what. And never mind this. Like I said, it was late. That should be ECM. This is not a PCM. Either one of those are. So I wanted to show that. And then my thought process was, well, how do we know that this running manufacturer number is truly pointing in the right direction of which ECM is what? So my thought would be is to disconnect one of them. And by disconnecting it, you would lose communication. So what I'm curious of, if I disconnect, which one would lose communication? So let me back out of this, and we'll go back to the home screen there. Yeah, I won't do the code clear yet. So let me key off, and then we'll unplug that ECM. Okay, now everything's turned off. Set you guys up here so you can see what I'm doing. Actually, here, I'll just come over here a little closer. Sorry for the shakiness. All right, so let's just disconnect what we thought all along was being as ECM1. If we can get it to move. Now their connections are fun to try and pull here. Come on. There we go. Okay, you can see we're disconnected. Back here, let's pull this guy out of here. So, before knowing this, all along we kept thinking this was the ECM1. Now, let's go back over here. Of course, I am screen recording, so I will put that up on the screen so you can see it. But what I will do is we'll key on. Okay, we're going to back out of this completely. So we'll clear the code clearing, or the code code checking here, and we're going to let it run again. Now, I don't know if you notice, but look what popped up here. At ECM1, showing that there's 6 errors right now. Watch this guy here, will more than likely turn gray. Why? Well, because it's not communicating with it. Give it a moment here. There it goes. So you can see it's gray now. So that pointed out to me, a little closer. Yes, it is gray. So that pointed out to me right away that PCM, excuse me, the ECM that I unplugged is actually ECM2. Now, with that, let's just pause this. We don't really know everything else. Let's just go back into ECM1. And let's check that identification service again. Oops, not that. Expanded identification. And there you go, 1128. Well, we know 1128 is the one that's plugged in, and it's actually the one, as you're standing facing the vehicle, it's the one on the right side. So that cleared up to me of which one is actually ECM1 and which one is ECM2. So that was helpful. And here's the other thing. Get you down here where the scope is. Let's do this. You can see that the red and the blue are still showing a voltage. Okay? Up here, actually you can look here, the red and the blue, 428 and 0.75. Look at the green and the yellow, nothing. It's because ECM2 is not turned on there. So that was another way just to kind of, put another check mark in the box. So let me shut this thing off again. Okay. Now that is turned off of there. Let me plug this one back in. And this time what we're going to do, I'm going to clear the codes, and we're going to start fresh with it. Just key on, engine off, and you would see the codes that are there. Okay. So let me turn the key back on. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the codes out of it. Let me back out of the screen completely here. All right, you can see all the codes over there, and obviously ECM2, with no communication, will eventually have communication. So let's clear this out, and we're going to rescan everything. You can see ECM1 has 6 codes due to the fact it lost communication with ECM1, and of course you'll have other codes here. There it is. So now ECM1 or ECM2 is back online with 1 code. Let's pause it. We don't care about everybody else here. Let's just get to it here. ECM2 shows, hey, power supply to the terminal 30 voltage was low. Well, that was due to being unplugged. Okay, so let's just clear all the DTCs. Now, I'm not for sure if that's going to go into all these other modules that may have codes. I never did let it complete. But you can see now that ECM1 has 2 codes in it. ECM2 has no codes. Let's look at the ECM1. Oh, still going. Okay. Now let's see what ECM1 has. So we got our typical P1579 throttle valve control unit adaption. It did not initiate. That's the code we've been chasing since day 1. And it has a P1923 basically pointing at ECM2. The reason that was there is because ECM2 was unplugged. Well, let's clear those DTCs. Now it's back to 1. And I'm going to do is I'm going to key off. Okay, so now all we're going to have now is the P1579. Now let me key this thing off one more time. What I'm going to do now is we're going to swap these computers. And I'm not for sure if I had shown the fact that the way things are plugged in right now, the vehicle does fire up and run. The exhaust is off this thing yet. It's enclosed. If it wasn't so cold outside, I'd open the doors. Yeah, let me do it just so that way you can see it. I'm going to fire it up and let it run for a moment, just to show that it does run. Because I'm not sure if anybody ever, I really don't remember if I had demonstrated that or not. But here it goes. So you see it runs. Okay, good there. All right. So now you see that it does run with those ECMs. I almost said it again, PCM. It does run, and that's how it's laid out right now. So what we're going to do is, oh, this one's always been sticky here. What's going on? I just need a little screwdriver. Get her going. Come on. Well, I may have to. Let's see. Locks in there pretty good. There we go. Okay, there's that one. Now we're going to pull ECM1. Man, it's just a bigger connector. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to take ECM2's connectors, and we're going into ECM1. Okay. Now we're going to take PCM2, and we're going to plug it into ECM1's connectors. There we go. I'll just leave it sit right there. Yeah, that's hitting the plastic cowl, not the windshield, so don't freak out. Okay. So with that, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and try and fire it up one more time, and you'll see that it will now become a start, run, stall. Or maybe it won't start at all. That's interesting. Let me turn everything off. There you go. See? Start. And then stall. Actually, turn the ignition back on. So let's clear the, actually I don't want to clear the codes. What I want to do is back out of this again. Yes. And then do another high-speed scan. And actually I'll let it go this time all the way through. So right now ECM 1 has 3 codes in it. And ECM 2 has 4 codes. They say it's high-speed scan, but beg to differ. Still one module at a time. And you can hear it doing its self-tests. How many more do we got here? We got quite a few up there. Okay, there it's done. All right, so let's just look at ECM 2. You see now it's got a P3037 throttle valve control module 2, the adaption not initiated. Huh? Does that sound familiar? Yeah, just like what ECM 1 was having there for a while. The other code, P3028, throttle drive 2, angle sensor 2, implausible signal. Okay, didn't have that code over on that bank 2 before. P1924, control module pin coding implausible signal. Yeah, probably because it didn't belong in that position. And to explain the start stall, we got a P0513 incorrect immobilizer key. So we know now for a fact that the orientation of these ECMs are in its proper locations. As I was told that they had been swapped once and probably ran into the same issue. So I wasn't for sure certain if it was in the correct spot or not, being how it was labeled as 1, which I would assume would be for ECM 1, and then it said left. So the left part, I guess if you were if you were looking at it from a body perspective, you would say, oh, this is my left hand, so that's why it's marked as 1 and left. So now all that has been cleared up. I know what ECM is what, and the other thing we've learned is that ECM 2, in its location with its proper computer, did not generate any codes. In fact, ECM 1, it's going to show power supply terminal 30, being the fact it was unplugged. Incorrect mobilizer key, yeah, and then a P1923 DTC memory of engine control module ECM 2, basically pointing at saying, hey, better take a look at the other guy over here because he's got issues. Well, that's really not the case. So seeing what we have going on here. Turn the camera around here. So, to me, this was kind of a last-ditch effort in a sense, as far as, well, one, who's who on the ECMs. Two, we no longer had any kind of throttle body or throttle valve issues anymore, because the codes that it was generating doing the old Swaptronics is no longer happening. And then by swapping the computers, it pretty much says the same thing. The codes that we had with ECM1 initially end up moving over to ECM2's position, and now ECM2 is okay. Now, we're not done. Let's go into the, let me swap you back around. Let's go back into the throttle valve in each one of these guys. Now, I don't know if it's going to be an issue now that I have all those generated codes, but let's just take a look, because normally you can't run the throttle body alignment unless there's no codes other than the initial, throttle body alignment code. But you go into OK, and now look at that. It says now that ADP is okay, where that side was always giving me an error, especially under just key up. So let's get out of this one. Now let's go over to ECM2. Oh, there it is. And let's do the same thing. Sorry, that's not what I meant to do. Let's back out of there. Oh, you know what? Now that we're there, let's just do this. So now ECM2 is the 1128. Recall that's what we had as being ECM1. Well, look where what ECM1 number is. It's 1127, because that's my ECM1 line. And then here's ECM2, and look at the number on that one. That is the 1128. So you see that those numbers, the actual ECM identification numbers, did follow. So it is not something that's, etched in stone that the numbers had to be in that particular position. So now that kind of also proves that point that it did follow with it. Let's go back. We're going to go basic settings, and we're going to check where's number 60. Why do I always lose it? It's in here, number 2. Oh, here we are. Let's take a look at it. There's the error. Well, how is that possible if initially this throttle valve was totally fine? Now that one's bad? No. What we got here is, so what we have here is, I would say, proof in the pudding here. ECM1 has a problem. We are going to need a new engine control module. That is the only explanation. There's nothing more to check. There's nothing wrong with the throttle valves. We've already proved that out. The other thing of this, by swapping those computers around, the codes follow the computer. So it points to the fact that there's nothing wrong with the wiring. We can see it in the scope that it has the voltages that are proper. Both sides are relatively pretty dang close on its voltages. I believe that would actually iron out once you were able to do the adaption to get them both synced properly. So we're at that point. I'm going to call it. We need an engine computer. So that's where we're going. So stay tuned. I'm going to let the customer know, and we will get one and may do the programming of it. Since the communication of this ECM1 is still active, we may be able to just clone it. I'm hoping. So I may need to reach out a few people, because I have never had to do cloning of an ECM in these Audis. So being an '07, I'm not sure what its capability is. I mean, I know it can be done. So it's maybe an adventure. Who knows? Might be watching me doing one. But otherwise, I appreciate everyone following along, sticking with me through this whole process. I know sometimes when you watch the video and I'm kind of doing stuff, it's my own thought process. So, you know, a lot of things I may say in the process while I'm working on it, sometimes you kind of, grain of salt, don't stick me to it, because it's just a thought process. I have to work my way through it to determine what is right, what's wrong, and, you know, find the correct path. So that's where we're at. Anyways, once again, thanks for following, and stay tuned. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.